Hi everyone, happy Saturday. So we are going to color a page out of a Disney Hachette Heroes book. This is the Felines book. This is the Spanish version. I'm showing a few of the pages I've already colored with different materials to try to figure out what I like. And really what I found is that I have to use a variety of mediums to get color matches. So it's either I use all acrylic markers but the colors don't quite match, or I use a variety of things, which is what we're going to be doing today. I'm showing we're using a variety of acrylic markers, a Faber-Castell big pit pen in there, and I'm actually going to finish off with some colored pencils. I find that the Prismacolor pencils tend to be the closest in color matches, and so I like to use those. But yeah, I'd like to show that you can use different mediums and still get a really nice looking picture. Plus, I wanted to try these Molotov acrylic markers and really give them a good test, because these were the expensive set that I bought that are refillable, and they're German, which makes them a little harder to get. I was drooling over the 70 something set that's like $360 US, and I was just like, and then I figured out I couldn't even get it on their website because they don't ship to the US, so womp womp. But I do have their basic colors one set, and each marker, if you want to see more info on these, check out, hopefully I remember this, let me write this down, 202 something mark. There we go. Let me grab a pencil so I can remember this later. I'm going to put the supply haul video up here top right if you want to see me take a closer look at these markers and make a, well, you don't see the mess, but I end up making a mess with one of them. But I was really intrigued by them. I got a set of 12 basic colors, and they come with a like bullet type nib, like a thicker 4 millimeter nib, and then they come with a smaller like 1.0 nib. And the black one in particular, as you can see, is the one I really wanted to give a good try, because oh, and this is a mystery cat. I didn't show you what it was going to be at the beginning. I'm sure you'll be able to quickly figure it out as we do the black outlines, and black is actually at least a third to, yeah, at least a third of the picture. You'll be able to tell fairly quickly, and if you've already seen the picture on Instagram, you'll know, but we'll keep it a mystery for now. It is a cat, though, for my Kits and Caboodles Birthday Cats 2025. It is my birthday month. It will be May 20th, and so what do I like more than cats? So I figured we would do a special tag for the month. And I haven't done anything yet with cats, though I might. I'm recording this on Friday. I might color something today and post it on Instagram. I don't know. Anyway, normally for the black, I use a Pitt brush pen, like the Faber-Castell Pitt artist pens that are brush pens. But in this case, I really wanted to try this fine tip of the Molotov. And it's a good thing, because there was a lot more black in this picture than just the black outline. And so it came in really handy. And I colored this very slowly. I have sped it up, and it looks like I'm so smooth and precise, and I know exactly what I'm looking at when I speed it up. But when I tell you, I get pretty painstakingly close to the page. Hopefully y'all don't see my wild hair in this at any point, because I'm peering over the book trying to figure out what goes where. That's what happens when you get older and you have bad bad eyesight. But yeah, it looks like it took no time at this speed. If only I could color at this speed and I had the eyes that I had 20 years ago. Um, but yeah, one of the biggest reasons I don't color in these books very much, even though I have a bunch of them and I love them, is I have a hard time color matching because I can't use colored pencils a lot, especially not at the depth and pressure that I want on this to get a smooth look. I can't use colored pencils very much. Even those can tend to match more than anything. So I kind of have to fill the gap, and I don't have a good swatch setup system of all my acrylic markers. Because as you saw, I have the Molotov, I have even some Arteza and like the big 4 millimeter nibs. I have like Arteza and some other stuff in a drawer somewhere. I have the Arctics, like the 2 different types of paint pens. I didn't even try my Grabies or Grabbies on this. They aren't as opaque as I would like, so I figured they would just drive me crazy, so I just opted not to use those on this. Save those for more like detail work, though I'll probably still try one. Um, the problem is acrylic markers aren't very good at being color named or numbered. Gravy did well. Arctics on one of their types of markers has numbers, but a lot of my markers, and then the water-based markers I have the Pitt Artist pens, I have another Faber-Castell watercolor marker, I have the Stadlers, I have like Tombos that I could use. I just don't really have a place where like I have all these swatched, and the ones that don't have numbers or colors on them, I don't have any way to swatch them except put numbers on them, which I don't really want to do. But it's getting to the point I want to color in these, and I've got to have an easier way to be able to get the colors. Um, I'm also having to get more comfortable with getting close. Like D, when I get D out, it's more of just a true purple, which this one is more of like a purpley blue is supposed to be. It's good enough. It's close enough. And I gotta just start being okay with that. If it isn't the perfect chosen number, that color that Disney had, then so be it. It's close enough. So I've got to learn to be okay with that too. Um, one thing, when I do color these, I turn the book constantly. That is to give areas time to dry before I go back over them so I don't smear them. And also, it's just easier for me to get a smoother line if I'm turning them, because most of the time I outline the sections, especially if they're big sections like you see here, that then I can come back and easily fill in. I have to draw like the outline first, or else I can be really sloppy with these. And it's just a lot smoother lines and less shakiness because my hands are shaky on top of everything when I turn it. So you're going to see this turn and rotate throughout. And I usually don't do that, but for these, I have found it is the most comfortable way to color these for me. And I managed not to smear anything on this page. I was so proud. Usually I am bad about sticking my hand in wet paint or smearing a colored pencil or something like that. One tip I would say on these, I would start out with the acrylic markers or the fabric or the watercolor markers. You can pick either one, but I usually start out with the acrylic ones. And then I come through with like the water-based markers, and I finish out with pencil because I put pretty heavy pressure with the pencil and I use a blender. So especially with Prismacolor, because they're softer, they do tend to, if you rub them with your hand, the oils on your hands can make them smear. So I wait till the very end to do those, so I'm touching the page as little as possible. You'll even see me bring an extra piece of paper on here to cover sections that I'm laying my hand on. I'm also wearing an artist glove. I'm just really bad about smearing any type of medium. So I found that works the best for me. But of course, it may differ for you if you're using um, pencils. So, and even the little bit of pencil I do fill in, it was a bigger section than I anticipated, and my wrist was mad at me at the end of this picture. So that's why I can't use colored pencil for the majority of a picture, even a fairly simple picture like this. But if I feel up to it, I think my project this weekend is I'm going to start figuring out a way I can create swatches for all of my Disney color by number stuff. And normally I keep my swatches with like the pencils or with the markers. But I think with these, I'm just going to keep them together in a notebook and, you know, binder clip together something where they're all together, because that's really like I'm going to have to look in between sets when I'm looking at a picture like this in the colors. So um, I'll just have to figure out a way to label either if I can use a Sharpie successfully or if I need to use pieces of paper wrapped in scotch tape or something. I don't know. I've tried using stickers before. Like I found numbered stickers on Amazon and I tried using those for the Statlers and they just peeled off and now they're everywhere. They did not want to stay on and I probably would have had to reinforce those with scotch tape, but like it's 120 markers. I was not going to do that for 120 markers when it was supposed to be a sticker that was supposed to stick. I don't shouldn't need an extra layer of sticker tape. It just was the principle of the matter. But I've learned. So now we'll see. If not this weekend, maybe it'll be an ongoing project. But I do want to color in these more often. All right, the Molotov markers. I think they were really smooth. I did find, especially with the black, where you're coloring a big section for a while, they do start to look a little dry, and occasionally I would need to pump. These are pump type acrylic markers. I would need to pump it and occasionally shake it just to make sure everything was still flowing smoothly. But in terms of very smooth marker without a lot of like the dry, pilly stuff that sometimes those types of acrylic markers have, that didn't happen with these, and they were very smooth. I really enjoyed the the black marker. I think this would be a great one to use as long as I can get access to the refills. I feel like this will be a good primary marker to use if I'm blacking out backgrounds on double-sided books, since I can't use markers. And the last black marker I used was an Ohuhu and it yellowed, and I got so mad because my Ohuhus are not supposed to yellow. That is like the thing I don't want to own alcohol markers that yellow because it screws up the pages around it and it makes me really mad. Um, so this black marker might actually become a bit of a workhorse for me as long as I have access. And even if it's not their brand acrylic paint, I bet any black acrylic paint would work, as long as I look online and make sure that there's not supposed to be like a mix. Like I'm assuming because it's flowing, maybe it needs a little bit of water or something with it. Um, so I would need to do a little research before I try refilling these. But this would be a good solid marker to have that I could refill. Um, and I think having, I did, because I may get the second basic color set because it does give another set, and they're like crazy expensive. I'm not gonna lie; these are just a luxury item of all intents and purposes, and I might get the other basic color set, and that'll give me 24 of the markers. And as long as I have access to refills for them, that'll give me a lot of basic colors for color by number, which for filling in big gaps like this, I think will be really handy because those little bitty Arctic markers and stuff, I just don't think those are going to last very long, because they are pretty small. So These give me a good kind of workhorse for these big sections that are likely colors that I have in my stash, so to speak. But yeah, so how is everybody doing? I got an unexpected day off. Not not in a bad way or anything, but I got an unexpected day off this week. And I'm actually recording this on Friday, and really happy about it. It was not as bad a week as I was anticipating at work. It has been, I feel like since December, it has just been barely keeping my head above water and going under a number of times at work. It's just, we haven't had enough people, we haven't had enough people trained. There was a transition where I had a new manager at one point. There's been various conferences and things that, and offsites and stuff like that, that have taken time, and it's just been really hard to find a lot of balance. But this week actually wasn't as bad as I thought. And I thought, well, while things are relatively quiet, why don't I go ahead and take the time off while I have room to breathe? And that's what I did. It was a pretty day outside, a little bit on the cool side. As you can see, I did color this outside, and here's Reef Sheep trying to help me. I actually pause. You'll see some pausing happen because I pause it with him because acrylic paint and cats don't mix. And he also likes to rub his face against the marker, which he tries to do a few times here, and that's not going to work either if I'm trying to stay in the lines. So you'll see a couple cat cameos and then they quickly disappear because they just can't be. That's funny. I didn't realize. So, like, I'm in a swing when I'm sitting at this table, and I can actually see where I'm swinging on the swing every few minutes. Hopefully, that's not making anybody motion sick. Sorry about that. I didn't even think about that. I would have loved to have done, well, if I'd done this live, I've been talking for 3 hours. Okay, maybe not that long, but it was probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. Um, and plus, my neighbors across the street started playing music, so it's probably for the best. But lots of bird song outside. My bird feeders are getting a lot of good use. They're, it's funny, I don't normally have a problem with blackbirds in the bird feeders. And over the last few weeks, I've noticed there's one that shows up. I'm assuming it's just one, right? Like, I can't tell the difference in them. But I laugh because I told my husband it's like he's masquerading as a cardinal. Like, oh, look at me, I'm just another pretty little songbird, here minding my own business. And because he didn't really disturb the other ones that much, I was like, okay, Bob, you can stay, but don't go tell your friends. You can enjoy it, but you can't tell your friends. And Bob must have told his friends, and I don't, how birds communicate, I don't know. But I went out there this morning, there's like four of them in there, and I kept having to kind of shoo them because they were crowding out the other birds. And I was like, oh, well, Bob, I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt there, and you ruined it for yourself. So, hate it for you, Bob. Sometimes, a couple times a year, they will infiltrate the bird feeders more. Usually on these kind of cool, cloudy, rainy days like we had this morning. Usually when it's sunny and nice, I don't see them as much. It's more the like cardinals and finches and like the actual like songbirds. Um, so it's just occasionally, but it was just still pretty funny. Like I feel like he ended up, he couldn't help himself, and they wanted to know why he was looking extra fat, and he ended up getting bullied out of it, and now they're all here. Oh well, Bob. Anyway, um, but yeah, no, it sounds really nice outside when a bunch of cars aren't riding by and the music's not playing. Um, but I just knew this was going to have to be a voiceover and I was going to have to speed it up. And like I said, I wish I could move this fast on these pictures in real life because I would get so many of them done. But I really do have to go slow because while the numbers and stuff are kind of readable because of the way it all kind of like there's abstract lines and movements throughout the numbers, I have to be really careful that I don't accidentally color in the wrong section. I don't want to mess up a picture. So, because of my old eyes, it's a little harder to see them than I would like, even in a bright setting like this. Um, but yeah, this is going to be a quiet weekend, which I actually haven't had since. No, I take that back. Weekend before last was kind of an off weekend. I think my last coloring chat was on the first weekend in April, and April was a crazy month. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this because I left the house a lot. I had two different events and festivals to go to, and then I spent one night at my parents' house, which ended up being more exciting than I anticipated. And I just had some pictures and some stuff to share from April, so I figured let's go for it. And like I said, I think you can probably tell who this is by now. That's the one thing I like about the this Felines book is the pictures are not detailed at all. So like if you're looking for a starter color by number and you like cats, like the Disney cats, I would say definitely get this book because this is nice large areas to color. Um, I have a Disney Villains whip that has been a whip for like well over a year now because it's the very first page with Ursula and it is so detailed. Yep, there we go. That is Scar from Lion King. And just finishing up a little bit on the black, and then we will move to purple. So at this point, I just have to pull the page up to really look closely at the numbers and be like, okay, let's make sure. Do I have any other areas? But yeah, as you can see, the black marker did really well. There were a couple areas I had to go back over that maybe got a little light colored, like wasn't as smooth, um, or didn't have the full paint layer on it. But for the most part, that black marker is a powerhouse. I love it. And now we're gonna get the purple one of it. So the first weekend of the month, or not the first weekend, but second weekend of the month, my brother had told us about a event in Nashville called the Cherry Blossom Festival that happens every year, and it's like a free event. It happens down near like the courthouse and stuff in downtown Nashville. And he went last year and he really enjoyed it. And he knows I like that kind of thing. I definitely like stuff, and I like looking at handmade crafts and art and like little stuffed animals and things like that. And he does too. We're very I said we are not the best duo to go to things like conventions and stuff because we both are good at enabling each other and we're not very good at saying, "No, you don't really need that." Most of the time one of us or the other's like, "Ah, come on, you can get it." You know, we're not good for each other's bank account. Let's just say that. And but they do like they have different types of music. It's a lot of events and demos and arts and crafts and stuff that's sort of celebrating Japanese culture. And my brother and I both love that kind of stuff, like culture celebrations. And we convinced my husband to come on a rare day out, mostly just because it was free to go and walk, and it was a nice day to get out and walk around. It was a little on the cool side, but the sun was so strong that day that it actually, I'm glad because we would have been sweating profusely had it been even probably 10 degrees warmer. And it was a lot of fun. It The area it's at's a real pretty area. It has like these different fountains and stuff like that. Of course, I didn't get a picture of any of them. But they had like so many different booths. They had like demos where they were doing like sword demos, they were doing martial art demos. They had booths where kids and adults could make like origami. They could make like do the not Chinese lettering, but the Japanese lettering um, on like the calligraphy and different things like that. They had one booth that had, I can't remember what they're called, and I have a picture of it. I'm probably going to show here in a minute. And there's Winry, by the way, speeding by on the picture. But they had these instruments that were made from like, they look kind of like banjos, but they're made out of like boxes. And then I think the name's on the booth when I pull that picture up. But there was a guy that was playing one of those that, I mean, it is Nashville, right? Like, you've got so many guitar players and banjo players and bass players. Like, it is a music town for sure. And there was this guy in a, I think a cowboy hat, like just tearing up, not tearing up, but like really going at it on one of those. That was a lot of fun to listen to. Like, he gave a little demo without, oh, I'm sure he knew he was giving a demo, but like it was pretty cool to hear somebody like actively play it. And they had like, of course, they had booths that had stuffed animals, and you're gonna see in one of my pictures that I did buy some stuffed animals. I couldn't help it. Um, my brother really likes stuffies, I guess. My brother is collecting quite a few, and I've held out for the most part, but it's starting to become a problem. And so I have them scattered in my office, and I have them in my bedroom on the shelves next to my bed. And now they're starting to kind of congregate through different parts of the house. So, um, and it's so funny because I remember the one thing a lot of people were buying and using, which it was a great day to use, were those parasols, and they were beautiful. And I laughed and laughed because at one point I was sitting there and I had bought a stuffed capybara, and I was holding him like I had my arms around him, and I'm sitting there looking at the booth selling parasols, and I'm like, when am I going to go out? I don't even go out in the sun. Like, granted, I'm pale and I could probably use that, but when do I actually go outside in the sun? And I'm like, that's so impractical. And then I look down at my stuffed capybara that's like, I don't know, at least 2 feet tall. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously, impractical is not. It's not a requirement for your purchases today, Michelle. But I did. I managed to talk myself out of it. Mostly just because it would have been hard to display in the house. That's what I would have primarily gotten it for. Is try to find a way on the. I wouldn't want to keep that up. You know, it's so pretty. I would want it to be there. Quick break, by the way. I am using the Faber-Castell Pit Artist Pens. These are water based. And how I have found I like the water base the most is if I keep them going in the same direction. So when you see me color with the water-based markers and even some of the acrylic markers, you'll notice I'm going up and down, like I'm trying to keep the same line. Not always, but in the big areas, so that if there is a line, if there is a texture throughout it, at least it's all going in one direction, and it looks a lot cleaner that way. So, just wanted to note that about the water based. And then, like I said, some of the acrylic pens that aren't as opaque, I do the same thing with. I just make sure those and the pencils and everything's going in the same direction, basically. Okay, so enough yapping about it. Let me show you some pictures. We'll take a quick break from this and I'll show you a few pictures. So here was one of the booths that did the calligraphy and like the art. I love that little bunny right there. That is super cute. Then this showed up and I Let me tell you, if I was going to have a dog, it would be a corgi. That is just so stinking cute. If only I could have had a cat in a stroller. Some really pretty necklaces. I think that my brother ended up getting one of these because some of them look like planets. Had all kinds of different music going on during the festival, which was a lot of fun and a great vibe. And these, I cannot pronounce that. Shamisen, maybe? And this was the guy that was like going to town on one of these. So they're very cool. And here was the three of us, me, my brother, my husband, probably looking a little frazzled, but being out in the sun all day, we weren't too prepared. And here's my messy living room with my two biggest perches, my capybara, Joe Milkshake, and my cat, Mr. Business. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And there's also like a walk you can do that's like it's like a 2 mile kind of cherry blossom walk that we didn't get a chance to do. I think we made it around to everything. I think it didn't help. Like my brother's birthday is in April and mine's in May, and so a lot of it was like, "Here, I'll buy this for you for your birthday, and I'll get this for me for my birthday," and uh, and my husband learned. I'm like, "Here is your lesson in why I come home with the stuff I come home with because we're terrible at enabling each other. But there's just so much cute stuff out there. I mean, yeah, you have stuffed animals and stuff. Not all that's handmade, but like, and that's the thing. There were a ton of crochet, cute little amaguri and cute little crocheted animals. And I had told myself, I said, no, you have like two gigantic tubs of woobles at home, at least two tubs of woobles to make. You have plenty of cute little crocheted amaguri animals things. You do not pick up a crocheted animal. The only exception I made was at Too Many Games. I got a possum last year, and his name is Little King Trashmouth. I think that's right. Um, and he was super cute. I did get him at Too Many Games. But he was like my only exception. Like I guess if it's a gigantic crochet thing, because I'm probably not gonna do that. Let's be real. Um, and yeah, so I'm hoping next year we can go make a fuller day out of it. Man, so we wanted to eat lunch there, and there were all these different food trucks, which is really cool. They had them lined all along one of the streets, and they had like any kind of fare you could possibly want. But of course, we were looking for more like Asian styled food, and like a lot of the booths had lines that looked, I guess, slick and like maybe they were big businesses. And then there was this place that I can't remember the name of it, but the line wasn't very long. And they had like chicken teriyaki, they had just your basic like orange chicken and rice and just I can't remember what else they had, but just like basic fare like that. And we're like, we don't want to stand in line for a long time. Like, we're going to, stand in this line. And you know exactly what it looked like? It looked like somebody's mom, who maybe runs a restaurant or something, or is just cooking out of her kitchen. And when I tell you that food was so good, it was so good. Like, it's exactly what I wanted. Like, just authentic, not I don't know how else to describe it, but like then when we got done, the line was super long, and I was like, yeah, we made a good decision there because it was delicious. Um, and then we stopped and tried a sushi place my brother recommended. Um, my husband loves sushi, and I do too, but I know I don't love it quite as much as him. I usually get a mix of like really the only uncooked rolls I usually get are rainbow rolls because you kind of get a variety. And to me, a rainbow roll is a perfect indicator of how good the place is because if the rainbow roll stinks, like hopefully not literally, But if it tastes off, then like I will never want to go back to that place again because obviously they're not doing anything right by their fish. And their raw fish and the rainbow roll I got there was amazing. So my husband was happy with it. I was happy with it. So that is in the next town over where like all where we'd like to move if the housing market ever got back to normal. Um, because we're tired of being so far away from everything and having to drive 40 minutes to a decent grocery store that's not overcharging us like our little local grocer does. And like to all our doctor's appointments and to visit my family and stuff. But I just, unless we have a massive change in income, if I get promoted and it's a substantial raise, or if the house and if the housing market or interest rates got better, we'd consider it. But we've got our house paid off, and it's kind of like right now we just this economy and the orange man. Um, sorry if you don't like it, get over it. Basically demolishing what's left of it, left of the economy, and stomping it out. I'm not feeling good about like long term, job prospects or, the job market and stuff like that. And my husband was laid off last year. And because we're so far away from everything, it has to be a remote job. We just cannot drive 2 hours a day. And no, 4 hours a day because it's one way, 2 hours, rush hour drive to Nashville. And there's nothing closer at this time that's really, hiring the type of roles that we'd be looking for. So the commute's just it's non-negotiable. It has to be remote. Um, and so he's just had trouble finding anything that's remote because everybody's going back in the office. And don't get me started on that because that is the dumbest waste of time for so many people. And just I could talk for 2 hours about why that's dumb. And especially for some of the for specific roles and positions um why it doesn't make any sense. But I digress. Anyway, so for the foreseeable future, until remote work comes back, and I think it will, it have to, because people are just not going to be able to move to with the cost of housing and apartments. If all these places want to hire in hub cities and bigger urban areas, people aren't just the talent's just not going to be able to afford to move there, and to even look for something in the first place. And so they're going to have to like, it's either lose your top talent options and like start going downhill as a business, or open it back up. I think it will, but it's probably just going to be a while because again, current administration is not embracing the idea of remote work. So, but anyway, uh, so yeah, that's kind of just where we're at right now. But anyway, um, we are working on mostly the browns and tan colors right now. A lot of times, those are the ones I have the like maybe not browns. I have a really hard time finding a dark gray. I need like a dark gray, a good acrylic paint pen. I need one that is a warm gray, like more of a reddish dark gray, and I need a cool one. Um, sorry, I was looking at the finished picture because I was trying to figure out this one area was pink, which is his scar, and like I wanted to make sure like it really was pink. Like it just seemed like an odd choice with everything else. Sometimes you get really into these and you're not seeing the picture as a whole, and you're like, that's a really weird color to put there. That doesn't really go with everything else. So sometimes I have to check the back. Normally I like to be surprised, but this one I knew what it was going to be um, already. So, um, because I had looked. Most of the time, I just start them and, want to be surprised. And you'll see I forgot to do something, and at the very end, when I show you the finished picture, there was some green in his eyes, and when I got finished with the picture, I looked back and I'm like, I didn't use that green. Where was that green? So then I had to look at the solution, and I was like, oh, that was supposed to be in his eyes. So you'll see it in the finished picture, you just won't see it, like, when I'm actively trying to color it. But, what was I going to say? Yeah, the water-based markers, I had to get okay with them leaving a line texture and not being completely saturated. They're lighter tone, they're not a saturated colors, obviously, like the acrylic or even the Prismacolor pencils you'll see. Like, they're, because they have water in them, so they are a little lighter than some of the other items. But I think altogether, like, it does end up looking really good. And so, I've had to come to terms to be okay with it. Um, it's either that or just accept that I'm going to lose half the pages in this book and then just use my alcohol markers. And I don't really want to do that, particularly in this book, because I love all the pictures. They're all cats. I don't want to lose any of my cats, even villain cats. And yet, he's a big cat, but he is still a cat. So he counts. Dang it. Anyway, so the other thing I did in April, well, the second thing I did was the next weekend, which was the weekend for my brother's birthday, we went to MTAC, which is the Middle Tennessee Anime Convention. And that is in Nashville. It's at two different hotels, the Sheridan by the airport and the Embassy. And basically, they run a shuttle back and forth. The main part of it's at the Sheridan, but the Embassy has like a lot of the tournaments, like the board game room where you can like rent board games and try them out, board game demos. They had like the arcade there. They had some different stuff. And we ended up, even though from my parents, on a non rush hour day, it would probably take about 30-45 minutes to get there. My brother and I were like, why don't we just stay at the hotel a few nights? That way, because there was a lot of stuff that was going late, and like I'm talking 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we were like, we really don't want to hang around, have to walk half to a quarter mile, 3/4 of a mile to our car, then have to drive home at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, get up the next day and come because it was 3 days. So we're like, I mean, I work hard so I can play hard, I guess. I was like, hey, I'll get the hotel room, so we can stay there and we don't have to worry about driving back and forth and trying to find parking. And we stayed at the Embassy Suites, which was pretty decent. Um, there was a sound in the wall that sounded like there was a busted pipe, and every time somebody flushed the toilet, it sounded like there was a waterfall feature in our room, so I kind of had to tell them about that. The wall wasn't wet, it wasn't showing any signs of anything leaking, it just sure sounded like that. Um, the bed didn't sleep great either, but it wasn't. I think I have a picture of the hotel. The inside of it's really pretty though. Um, and it was neat. That's like the only other convention I've been to other than Too Many Games. TJ went to one last December, and it was really cool. It was cool to go to a smaller convention. It was more spread out, like in a hotel instead of like an expo space where there were different things in different rooms, and they had a good line set up, like if you were waiting for panels and stuff. They had a lot of really good voice actors and panelists this year. Um, I'm trying to think of their names. I'll put them in the description. But I know one, Alexis Tipton, I actually got her autograph. She's one that does Kid Trunks in the Dragon Ball series. And I actually had time Sunday to talk to some of the voice actors because, funny enough, I have kicked around the idea of dabbling in voice acting. Um, nothing big because I would have to probably move somewhere because they don't like doing remote stuff anymore for like the big anime and uh, like animated movie or shows. They won't like you in a urban setting in a sound booth, I guess. But for things like, indie video games or audiobooks or something like that, that's something I could do remotely. And just as like a side gig, I don't have any huge aims on that. Oh, quick break, by the way. So you see me using colored pencils. I have two different Prismacolor pencils. I wasn't even looking at the screen. And what you're seeing is I'm laying down just a very thick layer. Um, I am pressing as hard as I can without making it snap. And I'm going over it in the direction that everything else is going, like that kind of up down. But then I'm going to go back over them kind of in a crosshatch way just to get a little more color on them. And then I did that with the brown at the very bottom. And then what you're going to see me do is use a color um, blender pencil on them. And that really helps smooth out those white areas and gives a nice smooth color. I like Sugar Sweet. Recommend it. Has a really good video on using pencil blenders, and I used to use them. I don't use them as often anymore. And he talked about how some of the different brands are very different and how they blend. And I only have a couple different brands, and he recommended the Color as being one that will blend a lot. Like will is not a super hard blender. And this has worked really well in this. I think this will be my new favorite blender pencil. I used it on my RJ Hampson picture too, and I liked it. But you can see how much it smooths out the color. I use the Prismacolor because they're the softest ones I have, and they'll lay the most pigment down. And like I said, I'm just even more so now than I was 5 years ago. It's really hard for me to use colored pencil for long unless I'm just using very soft layers. And even a day or two of doing that, like I can't do more than that at a time. I really have to limit how I use my colored pencils. Hey Leroy, what you doing, buddy? Why you look so upset for? You get up here. You're not gonna be in my way. Um, but so that's my way of getting the colored pencils to look fairly smooth on here. But yeah, the thing with it being a local convention is a lot more people cosplay. We didn't see as many cosplays at like too many games because a lot of people fly in for that, and I imagine it's really hard to fly in a costume that you're going to put on. So we saw a lot of cosplayers. I did take a picture of a couple, and it was really fun. It was just nice. It was a very pretty weekend. We had to wait outside in some lines because the line just came out through the doors. And it was really pretty. I even show a picture of more haul stuff I got that's not coloring. I like to collect pins from these things. I've noticed because they're small, I have displays that I can easily put them on. They don't take up as much space. So I try to pin collect everywhere I go, at least one, as kind of a souvenir, thing. But I ended up buying some other stuff. I didn't do too bad, I guess. But let's take a break and I'll show you some pictures from that. So here's me and my brother. We mask up anytime we're inside, but since we were outside waiting in line, I, I really like this picture of us, honestly. I think it looks really good. And I'm wearing earrings and hairpins from the Cherry Blossom Festival. Here was a voice actors panel where he had a bunch of people from Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, and a bunch of various anime shows. There's a Final Fantasy panel we went to. I like anime in general, so even if I don't play the games, I still, or do the things, I still like going to the panels because I'm just a nerd. So here is Alphonse, I think that's right, from Full Metal Alchemist. Great cosplay. I love this one. I loved how his eyes lit up. And she had that drape went all the way down to the ground, and it was all those flowers. It was handmade. There is no telling how much time she spent on that. Amazing. This was the hotel we stayed in, which was really pretty. And it was nice, just a nice vibe with all the convention goers there as well. Um, Jason Miller, I can't think. I think he has, I can't remember his middle name. I'll put it in the description. Does a ton of music for video games and things like that. Here was some of my collection. You can see my new desk mat, pins, one stuffed cat, a really cool Attack on Titan sweatshirt, and then some fans, the dragon scale bracelet I got. This was Alexis Tipton, where she signed my kid trunks picture. I've already got a frame for. It was my first official autograph. And this really cool dragon. I don't do dragons very much, but that was just really cool. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to go to. My husband opted out of that because you couldn't get just a day pass, which I think he would have enjoyed. Like they do magic tournaments and stuff. I think he would have enjoyed it if he could have went for just one day and milled around. Went to a couple panels and stuff, but they didn't sell day passes. They just had one 3-day pass they sold. And that was the thing. I was like, listen, I'm old and I'm sick and tired all the time. Um, and I'm having a lot of fatigue and pain issues because of this time of year anyway. I was like, if you want me to go with you all 3 days, TJ, I was like, we gotta stay in a hotel because if we don't, by the time the third day comes around, I will be done. So Brent stayed home and took care of the cats. They did really well. Um, it was nice to just be gone a couple nights, so just to see how things would go, and it went really well. I think we will definitely, we'll probably make that like our warm up convention of the year because that's probably the first one that'll happen in April. That and the Cherry Blossom Festival will be kind of our warm up. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Um, you can see I had to call in a refill. That's why I just had a random pill bottle fall into the picture. I think in one of them you could probably see a bunch of medicine my medicines I take like in the background. But yeah, here I am. I cannot remember what the color pencil name was for this, but it was the 5 on here. It was like a light red, not light, but medium red brown. I just couldn't find that color in anything else. So, and then that dark cool gray I was talking about. So, um, getting pretty close to being done with the picture, but yeah, did that. That was a lot of fun. 2 weekends in a row. I picked up something even with the mask, but fortunately, I think because of the mask, it wasn't as severe. It was like a stomach bug of sorts, whatever it was I picked up. So that is a big reason I mask is just I don't go out much and my immune system is pretty shot. So and we also mask because my mom's got a lot of health issues and we don't want to and my brother lives with my parents so he doesn't want to bring anything home to them. So um but yeah, other than picking up that bug that messed with my stomach for like a week, um it actually didn't affect me as bad as I thought. Probably just because I was already in the throes of being achy and tired, so it like didn't do anything new. Um, look how that pencil just smooths all that out. But let me tell you, by the end of this, just this little bit of colored pencil, my wrist was mad at me. Like, I try not to put that much. I am a heavy pressure gal when it comes to pencils, but even I don't try to put that much pressure on them. But for this, I just really want as smooth a look as I can get. And so, again, that's why I limit how much I use them in this. Um, And then I took that weekend off after because of the stomach bug. And then I went to stay the night with, I ended up staying the night with my parents last weekend, last Friday. And my brother was getting, he had already had two wisdom teeth cut out. He's 12 years younger than me, by the way. So he is 32 because his birthday is a month before mine, and I will be 44. Ugh. Anyway, okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But he had his two remaining wisdom teeth cut out, and then there was one next to his wisdom tooth on one side that had to come out because the way it was crowding. Um, so he had those cut out the day I went down there, and his first ones went fine. He didn't have any problems, and so he had these done on a Friday because he didn't want to take any more time off, and he figured he'd be fine. After about 6 hours, it was still bleeding as much as it was when he first got home. It hadn't slowed down at all, and it was about 8, 9 o'clock at night, and it just would stop bleeding, and he was getting worried. And my brother does not like going to the doctor, so he wanted to go to the ER. So I knew it was really bothering him. Um, and so I was like, I'll take you. So went to the ER with him last Friday. They gave him some clotting medicine to stop it. They just squirted it on some gauze, and he sat there for about 40 minutes with it, and it got it down to almost non-existent. It almost completely stopped it. And but he had a suction he was using between getting there and that happening, and there was a lot of blood. Sorry, hopefully I was making anybody kind of queasy, but there was a lot. Even the doctor was like, whoa, yeah, that's a lot after just 6 hours. And he asked him if he took any blood thinners, and he doesn't. At least, well, we'll get to that. Um, and he but he is diabetic, but it's managed. It's managed to the point he's almost off his metformin because he's lost like 80 pounds. And it's down regularly in the 90s. It was all out of whack that night, though. He was so anxious, and I think because of the bleeding and stuff, like his heart rate was up, his blood pressure was up. I kept asking if that was normal, and I'm like, no. And he's like, no. But I think it was all out of whack because he had just, had a bunch, teeth cut out, and he was very nervous about being there, and I think it was all because of that. Because his heart rate and blood pressure did come down after being there for a while, and once they got the clotting taken care of. And so we came back home later at night. I got back around midnight. My parents actually stayed up, which it's been years since they've been up that late. We all slept in Saturday morning. But yeah, that was our bit of excitement, and it did stop. I'm gonna call and check in tomorrow, but I haven't heard anything. So fortunately, I think we managed to get it all stopped. The only things we could think of is that because he's diabetic, even though it's managed, it's still an issue. And the next day, he said something about, should I take my baby aspirin with this medicine I got from the doctor, like the pain meds and the antibiotic? And I was like, wait, you take baby aspirin? And he said, yeah, the doctor recommended I take it because of diabetes, and just to uh, avoid complications. And I was like, TJ, baby aspirin acts as a blood thinner. A lot of people my mom, when she was taking like the heavy duty blood thinners and they kept causing gastrointestinal bleeding, when she had her Watchman device put in and had to go off those, I don't even know if she still does, but she was taking a baby aspirin. Even that thins her blood. And knowing our genetics, because she's always been like that, I was like, that's technically not a blood thinner per se, but it does thin your blood, and that may have had something to do with it. So I was like, whoops. Well, at least you know now. And so, it wasn't a big emergency, and I'm grateful for that, but it was his first time having to go. And my brother, he's in his 30s and he's a grown man, but it's that kind of big sister. You kind of look at your little sibling as, I always look at him as like he's still not a baby, but he's still like 18 or 20 and just getting out in the world. And like, I want to be protective of him and stuff still. And I don't want to embarrass him, but like, that's, just still feel like that big sister protectiveness in me. And while I was finishing that story up, we have our finished picture. Like I said, I realized I hadn't used my greens, and I went to look back at the picture at the solution in the back and filled that back in. So, but yeah, overall I'm happy with it. It's the purple Molotov wasn't as smooth as the black one, but and you can see it left a little bit of a texture in some areas. But you know what? I mean, even if I put straight paint on the paper and used a brush, I couldn't get it as smooth as I like it. It's just really the only way I'm going to get a perfectly smooth picture is if I take a picture of it and I use something like Procreate or something on a tablet. Like that's just the only way it's going to happen. So I am happy with this though. I feel like the picture still looks really good, even with the mixture of materials. I don't love the lines of the water-based markers, but having them all go in the same direction um, makes it, along with the pencil, makes it at least look cohesive. I did go back where I kind of went a little crazy with the red and lost that black outline of the tongue. I did go back in with the black over the red. It's one of the things I do like about the acrylic markers is that I can go back over with them if I make a mistake on something. So, but overall, old Scar turned out looking pretty razzle dazzle, if you ask me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I used to do like the mystery color by number things, and while this one was pretty easy to tell quickly, I'd like to maybe do more of them in the future. We'll see. Um, I wish I colored it as fast as this went. It was like an hour and four. It may have been double the time, not quite, but close. But I just can't do it with my eyesight. So like the really detailed pictures are going to take a long time to do. Anyway, this might be my first or second cat, depending on what I do, Friday, for my birthday cat's tag. By the way, you can, if you want to celebrate with me and you want to color a picture of a cat, feel free to join in on that tag. I've already had some people do that, and I really appreciate it. I enjoy seeing those very much, along with the other tags I'm hosting. But it's been a good week. I've got a number of pictures colored. I was a little bit grumpy at the beginning of the week for some reason. I suspect I know why. And we'll find out probably here in a couple of days. There may be reasons for that, womanly reasons. And uh being in your 40s. Um it got a little better in the middle of the week, and then now I have an unexpected 3-day weekend. This is going to be another busy month. We've already been talking about it. Gonna kind of take this weekend off. Over the next 3 or 4, over the next couple months, we're going to go visit my family for my birthday and my dad's birthday, which is the 20th and 23rd. My husband's birthday is the 13th, which is Monday. I mean, Tuesday. His name's Brent. He's going to be 44 too, so he's going to be an old man for a week before I follow him. So we're going to go visit his parents to celebrate mine and his birthday. And then our 10-year anniversary is on the 16th. Can't believe it. I joked to my dad. I said it took 3 tries, but I finally found one that stuck. So I would like to do a picture and maybe talk about how we met, because we met all the way back in college and then reconnected later on. I think it would be cute to do like a cutesy, lovey picture. So I might do that next weekend or something. And make that a little bit shorter one, because I'll just mostly be talking about us. And we're going to go 10 years is obviously a big deal. With the cats and their medical issues, we can't really go stay overnight anywhere right now. So we're talking about day trips. Mammoth Cave National Park is near us. So we've talked about going up there for the day. We haven't been there in a number of years. And we both really enjoy that. And like, we have a regular place. We used to do so much when we first met. Like, I have so many pictures from those first 2 years because we were younger and we liked actually getting out and doing things. So we went to like concerts and did a lot of hiking. I was in a lot better shape back then before I got sick. And it just, I would like to be able to do some of that stuff again. We're not going to be able to do all of it. I just can't do concerts anymore. I'm too old for that, I guess. But since I'm not going to too many games in June this year, which I'm kind of bummed about, I like that we're trying different ones this year, but John DiMaggio is going to be there. The guy that does like Bender the robot off Futurama, Jake the dog from Adventure Time, like he is a big voice actor and he's going to be there. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then one of the guys that plays my favorite character on JoJo is going to be there. But, you know, it's for the best. We've been there 7 years in a row, I think, and we're just going to skip this year and try some different ones. My brother is going to California for one in June with some friends, and then we're going to Gen Con. And I y'all, as long as she goes, I'm gonna actually get to meet Tammy from Tammy Colors too. We've been friends now for like 5 years and have never met, even though we're probably not that far away from each other. So I have an opportunity to meet her, but my brother and I are gonna go to Gen Con. And then maybe some more local ones, and then we might go to that one in December he went to last year, which is in Atlanta. So, um, fun year, fun stuff. I things are going all right. Like Winry's doing really well. She's even gotten back to her fight and weight before she started getting sick all those months ago. Bagheera has apparently has diabetic remission. He has lost so much weight that he no longer needs insulin. At least we don't think so. We're going to test him here in a couple weeks. We've taken him off of it. But he's still, you know, having some different issues because of the Cushing's and some other stuff. But he's all right. I mean, he's every night he gets put on the put on the couch or in the bed for 30 to 45 minutes of individual one-on-one petting time. He spends his whole day eating and sleeping. He is living his best life. If we could just get his thyroid under control, I would feel a little better. But, you know, for the most part he's doing good. And everybody else is doing good. It's been a tough couple months, but like I'm still trying to go and do things and be a little more balanced about it. And this has been a really good coloring week. This has been a nice week to just be at home, not as heavy a week of work. So, yeah, things are going kind of okay. They're going okay right now, which is far better than I've said in a while. So, kind of scared to say that out loud, wondering what's going to happen now, but you know. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna let you go. Hope you enjoyed this. If you like hearing me prattle on about my life, and I have some videos I need to do. I just don't know when I'm gonna do them and what's gonna be next. If I say it, it won't happen. So we're just gonna keep a question mark up in the air for the next one. So talk to you soon. Bye for now.